For over 100 years, Hollywood kept one truth locked away. Charlie Chaplin didn't rise to fame alone. He built his legacy on a secret love that, if exposed, could have ended everything. Edna Purviance was more than a co-star. She was the woman who saved him, the woman he broke, and the woman he never stopped needing. Their story is beautiful and devastating. And today, the truth finally comes out. They were standing under the harsh studio lights of 1915. Charlie Chaplin, the rising genius of silent films, already recognized for his trademark hat, cane, and comedic brilliance. And Edna Purviance, a shy, soft-spoken young woman who had never acted a single day in her life. No one on that film set could have imagined what was about to happen. Not the directors, not the camera operators, not even the studio executives who believed they understood everything about their actors. But the moment Charlie's eyes fell on Edna, something shifted, quietly, silently, almost invisibly, and yet powerful enough to shape their future. Edna was not a Hollywood girl. She wasn't chasing fame, glamour, or a place in the spotlight. She worked as a simple stenographer, trying to survive, trying to build a normal life. But destiny had other plans. When Charlie first met her, he wasn't just looking for an actress. He was searching for a presence, someone who could bring warmth, emotion, and honesty to the screen. Charlie later said there was a softness in her eyes, a natural charm, a grace that didn't need makeup, fancy clothes, or dramatic expressions. It was rare. It was real. And he saw it instantly. Within minutes, he hired her. Not knowing that decision would change both their lives, Edna walked into the studio as a nervous newcomer and walked out as the woman who would become Charlie Chaplin's greatest muse, closest companion, and maybe the only person who truly understood the fragile, sensitive soul behind the comedic legend. Their connection was immediate, but it wasn't the kind of connection Hollywood loved. Loud, scandalous, or public. It was quiet, gentle, and deeply human. They laughed together during rehearsals. They shared private conversations. During breaks, Charlie showed her how to face the camera, and Edna showed him how to be vulnerable without fear. Slowly, something began to grow between them, something neither of them expected, something neither fully understood at first. Charlie, despite his fame, was lonely. He carried scars from a childhood filled with poverty, abandonment, and emotional pain. Edna saw the boy behind the superstar. She saw the wounded heart behind the entertainer the world adored. And Charlie, in return, found comfort in her calmness. She grounded him. She soothed the chaos around him. She believed in him before the world crowned him a genius. Their romance didn't explode like a Hollywood scandal. It blossomed softly in shared smiles, late-night conversations, and the kind of trust that only forms when two souls meet at the right moment. No headlines, no public displays, no dramatic declarations, just two people quietly falling for each other in a world that constantly demanded noise. Soon, their bond grew deeper, emotionally, artistically, spiritually. And without realizing it, they were stepping into a love story that would not only shape their lives, but also change the course of Hollywood history forever. Hollywood had already begun to notice something special about Charlie Chaplin and Edna Purviance. On screen, their chemistry was undeniable. Audiences laughed with them, cried with them, and marveled at the way their eyes seemed to speak when words weren't needed. In every shared glance, every playful gesture, every subtle smile, there was a spark, a silent language that only they could understand. But what the world saw in theaters was only a fraction of the truth. Behind closed doors, their relationship was far more layered, far more fragile, and far more extraordinary than anyone could imagine. By this time, Charlie was not just a rising star, he was becoming a global sensation. Crowds followed him wherever he went. Fans and admirers surrounded him, many drawn not only to his humor, but also to the enigmatic charisma he carried effortlessly. Women adored him. Men envied him. The film industry demanded his time relentlessly, expecting perfection and constant innovation. Every moment of his life seemed to belong to the world, leaving almost no room for personal connection. And yet, amidst all the chaos, Edna was his sanctuary. She was the one person he could truly be himself with, away from the cameras, away from the scripts, away from the relentless expectations. With her, he didn't have to perform. He didn't have to be the genius, the comic, the idol. He could simply be Charlie, vulnerable, unsure, and human. The two of them spent countless evenings in quiet companionship, talking for hours about things no one else would understand. They spoke of life, of dreams that felt too big to achieve, of fears too painful to reveal publicly. Charlie carried the weight of a difficult childhood. Poverty, neglect, and an absence of parental care had left deep scars on his heart. In Edna, he found someone who could see past the public persona, past the laughter, and recognize the fragility of the man beneath the hat and cane. She didn't judge him for his past or his flaws. She simply understood, and Edna, for her part, wasn't dazzled by the trappings of fame. She didn't care about wealth or social status. She didn't want to climb the ladder of Hollywood or chase the spotlight. Her feelings for Charlie were pure and profound. She cared for him in a way that no one else ever had, deeply, sincerely, and without expectation. For the first time in his life, Charlie experienced a love that wasn't conditional on his success or talent. Their love remained a secret, hidden from the prying eyes of Hollywood. Charlie feared the potential scandal that could destroy his reputation. Edna feared losing him entirely if their private connection became public. So they loved in silence. They communicated through shared glances, small gestures, and the intimacy of being truly known. And paradoxically, it was that silence that strengthened their bond. Their love didn't need validation from the outside world. It didn't require applause or headlines. It thrived quietly, intensely, and enduringly, a rare connection between two souls that would leave an indelible mark on both their lives, and on the golden era of cinema itself, even as their personal relationship deepened. Charlie Chaplin's life was becoming more complicated than ever. The young filmmaker, now a rising star in Hollywood, was pushing the boundaries of cinema with every project he undertook. He had a vision, a perfectionist vision, and he expected those around him to meet it, even if it meant pushing them to their limits. And Edna Purviance, his muse and secret love, often found herself at the center of this whirlwind. Charlie wasn't cruel, but he was demanding. He challenged Edna in ways that no other director could. He would insist on dozens of takes for the smallest gesture, a subtle shift in expression, or a look that conveyed a single fleeting emotion. To Charlie, every movement mattered. Every nuance had to capture truth on screen. And he believed with unwavering certainty that Edna was capable of giving him everything he needed, not because she was perfect, but because he knew she was extraordinary. The result of this pressure was magical. Together, they created some of the most iconic films of the silent era. Audiences were captivated by their chemistry, by the unspoken connection that seemed to transcend the screen. The Tramp, A Dog's Life, The Immigrant, these weren't just movies. They were moments of pure emotion, laughter, and heartbreak that only Charlie and Edna could bring to life. Fans assumed the magic was only performance, but in reality, it reflected the intensity of their private bond. A love that was invisible to everyone else but palpable through the camera lens. Yet, success has its costs. As Charlie's fame exploded, so did the demands on his time, his energy, and even his heart. The world adored him, the studios exploited him, and every day brought new pressures, new expectations. Charlie was pulled in countless directions, and Edna, as devoted as she was, often had to wait in the shadows, silently fearing that the whirlwind of Hollywood could sweep him away at any moment. She knew the reality. She was not the only woman vying for his attention, and the industry often demanded sacrifices that neither love nor loyalty could fully protect. And slowly, painfully, Edna came to a heartbreaking realization. Charlie loved her, deeply, genuinely, with a passion few could imagine. But he also loved something else: the world's applause, the roar of audiences, the thrill of recognition. Fame had a hold on him that sometimes even she could not compete with.
This duality created an impossible tension. Edna longed for stability, for a love that could exist beyond the camera lights, beyond scripts and premieres, beyond the noise of Hollywood. But Charlie, brilliant as he was, could not yet give her that certainty. Their romance, beautiful and intense, remained hidden in the shadows, never allowed to step fully into the light. It existed in stolen moments, in whispered conversations, in private laughter between takes, a fragile, secret treasure that no one else could touch. And yet, despite the struggles, despite the pressures and the heartbreaks, neither of them could walk away. Their bond had become too deep, too intimate, too rooted in years of trust, understanding, and shared experience. Hollywood might have demanded everything from Charlie, but could never claim the connection he shared with Edna. Their love persisted quietly, persistently, in ways that would leave an indelible mark on both their lives and on the legacy of cinema itself. By the early 1920s, everything in Charlie Chaplin's life began to shift. Fame, which had once been a thrilling adventure, now came with a heavy price. Studios demanded more films, more appearances, and more innovation. New relationships began to form around him. Whispers of scandal floated through Hollywood circles, and every day seemed to bring a fresh wave of pressure and expectation. Amid all this chaos, Edna Purviance watched quietly, holding her love in the shadows, trying desperately to keep hold of the man who had become the center of her world. Edna could see the whirlwind pulling him further away, a world of lights, applause, and endless demands that she could not fully enter. Charlie, brilliant and ambitious, was being swept along by forces bigger than either of them. And yet, despite the distance growing between them, her heart remained with him, even as a quiet fear settled in, that one day she might lose him entirely. Then, one evening, after a long day on set, after laughter, takes, and countless retakes, Charlie spoke words that would forever leave a mark on Edna's heart. In a rare moment of vulnerability, he confessed something that she had suspected but had feared hearing aloud. "I don't know how to love properly, not the way you deserve." The weight of that admission hung between them, heavy and unspoken. Edna didn't cry. There were no dramatic outbursts, no angry accusations. Instead, she simply nodded because she had known, deep down, that this moment would come. They both understood the truth. Sometimes love, no matter how real, cannot survive under the glare of the world's expectations. And so, their romantic relationship ended, quietly, without fanfare, without public drama. It was the kind of heartbreak that lingers, that quietly shapes who you are, that remains a private ache for a lifetime. They had loved deeply, but circumstances, ambition, and the demands of Hollywood had created a chasm neither could bridge at that time. Yet, even as their romantic relationship ended, Charlie refused to let Edna go entirely. He kept her in his films, ensuring she continued to work and be part of his creative world. He continued paying her salary for decades, even when her acting career slowed and she no longer appeared on screen. These acts were silent declarations, gestures that spoke louder than words ever could. You mattered. You always did. Historians and biographers have long speculated that Charlie never fully moved on from Edna. She was the one woman who had softened the edges of his genius, grounded him when the world demanded his brilliance, and reminded him of the fragile humanity behind the comedic legend. In her presence, he could laugh, cry, and simply be himself without pretense. For Edna, Charlie represented a love she never sought to replace. Though their romantic relationship had ended, the bond they shared, the mutual understanding, trust, and emotional intimacy, remained. She carried him in her memories and in her heart, understanding that some loves are not meant to last forever, but are meant to shape a person completely. Their story was not the kind of Hollywood romance that made headlines. There were no public declarations, no dramatic breakups splashed across newspapers. But it was real, profound, and enduring. A love that, though silent to the outside world, left an indelible mark on both their lives. It was a reminder that sometimes the greatest romances are not the ones that dominate the spotlight, but the ones that exist quietly, shaping hearts and history in ways that cannot be erased. Their romance never made the kind of headlines that Hollywood thrived on. There were no sensational newspaper stories, no flashing cameras capturing stolen kisses, no public displays that would give tabloids fodder for months. There were no dramatic scandals, no whispered rumors that reached the gossip columns. To the outside world, Charlie Chaplin and Edna Purviance were simply actor and actress, professional collaborators in the silent film era. But what happened behind the cameras, the private bond, the quiet devotion, the unspoken love, shaped Hollywood in ways that few could ever truly recognize. Edna was more than just a co-star. She became Charlie's emotional anchor during the most pivotal years of his career. While Charlie was perfecting his craft, developing his signature character, and captivating audiences around the world, Edna quietly supported him. She offered patience when he was frustrated, kindness when he felt misunderstood, and a deep, intuitive understanding of the man behind the laughter. Without her steady presence and unwavering belief in him, some of the masterpieces of the silent era may never have come to life. She wasn't just an actress on screen. She was the woman who helped mold the genius, the heart that steadied the legend. And Charlie, in turn, gave Edna something she might never have expected. He transformed her from a timid stenographer into a star, a muse, and a symbol of the silent era itself. He recognized her talent, nurtured it, and gave her the opportunity to shine in ways that no one else could. More than that, he taught her that she was not simply a supporting figure in his life or in history. She mattered profoundly. Their collaboration, their shared experiences, and their private connection elevated both of them, leaving a legacy that would ripple across Hollywood for decades to come. Even after the romance faded, the respect and affection between them never wavered. Their bond had grown too deep, too intertwined to simply vanish. Charlie never publicly discussed their love, and Edna quietly moved forward with her life, but the emotional foundation they had built together remained intact. Their connection was not measured in public declarations or flashy headlines, but in trust, understanding, and the profound impact they had on each other's lives. When Edna passed away in 1958, the world moved on, as it always does, but for Charlie, the loss was deeply felt. He remained outwardly silent, giving no interviews, making no public statements, but those who knew him said he was devastated. A piece of his past, a part of his youth, and an irreplaceable part of his emotional foundation was gone. The love he had shared with Edna, though never formally recognized, had been one of the most defining relationships of his life. Their love was never official. It was never public. It was never written into the history books or plastered across newspapers. Yet it was real, intensely, irrevocably real. It shaped Charlie Chaplin, influenced the films that would define an era, and quietly changed Hollywood forever. A secret romance, hidden from the glare of fame and the scrutiny of the public eye, had left an indelible mark. One woman's patience, kindness, and understanding had helped create a legend. One man's brilliance and devotion had lifted a young actress into the timeless legacy of cinema. Together, Charlie Chaplin and Edna Purviance shared a love that was never meant to be public, but became immortal in the films, hearts, and memories of all who came to know their story. The silent, secret romance that changed Hollywood forever.